Welcome back to Tombadoola TV and to the second segment of Program 3 of Australia Day Celebration Week 2017. I must admit that community television has given me the opportunity to present myself to the general Australian public, especially here in Melbourne and now online throughout the world, in small doses of course. But this is the role of a community television station. Channel 31 has developed its programming since 1994. Governments should be wary of cutting down the free-to-air presence of a community television. This particular channel is very strong, politically speaking, because it's at the chalk face of what we do every day. The commercial television stations have got jobs to do, very precise. They need lots and lots of money. But the producers of Channel 31, they sort of survive on the smell of an oily rag when it comes to financial backing of our work. Therefore, all the mistakes, all the things that are wrong in our Channel 31 programs, and some of them are incredibly professional, but some of them are not. It's all part of the mix. So, enough for Channel 31 for now. Thank you very much for the work that you're doing, especially now that you've gone worldwide online. I encourage all our viewers to get themselves organised and get the Channel 31 app and just have a look at the richness of the programs available. Enjoy the segment. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Tombadoola TV can bring you a great variety of new series which will be projected to the world by tombadoolatv.com, but also by Channel 31 Melbourne. They're still free to air for the next 6 months and maybe even longer if the government decides to extend the pleasure of free to air for our community television station. But also, because of that threat, Channel 31 has moved on and has embraced the globalisation, the world. So Channel 31 programs and the 100 and so producers of Melbourne that work in the community area are continuing with their work that was started in 1994 for Channel 31. So we are very, very fortunate in this country, and especially Melbourne, because our Channel 31 has been one of the most successful community television stations in Australia, and I would say even across the world. But that's to be seen. Now you can watch us through the Channel 31 app. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for this first half of the program, Australia, well, it's a program series, Australia Day 2017. We are celebrating Australia, one family. Ciao, the end of part 1. We'll come back for another session very soon. We're going to go for an interval. Okay, let's have a coffee, etc. Thank you very much. Right. Now I want to concentrate on what we do best as well. Angelo Dore and myself come from a region in Italy, and we were born there in 2 different small towns in the region of Basilicata or Lucania in Italy, in southern Italy. They come from Viggiano, I come from Montemurro. Now, we bring with us to this country a lot of knowledge and a lot of skills, including the linguistic skills of those regions. We celebrate one Australia. Now, think about this, what Alessandro was saying before. If all the cultures that exist in this one family, Australia, come together and they actually fuse together, we can make Australia one of the greatest cultural experiments of all time, because we have an indigenous population that's been here for 60,000 years plus. They have an oral history. So oral history is, unfortunately, when you don't have writing, you have pictures on rocks, etc. But if you don't have writing, like with the Chinese, you can't go back in time and explain the details. So a lot of the indigenous populations, because there were many more, there were about 150 different nations of Aboriginal or indigenous people in Australia before the arrival of people from different parts of the world. And by the way, the English weren't the first ones here. The first recorded people who arrived in Australia after the year 1000 were the Chinese. In the northwestern part of Australia, there have been some remnants, some bits and pieces that they've left behind. So we actually know that the Chinese sailors arrived in Australia then. And after that experience, there's another group of people that came to Australia. Abel Tasman, he was from Dutch origin, Holland. Well, he arrived in Tasmania. So in 1606, there's a whole range of people before Captain Cook arrived, and then Captain Arthur Phillip finally settled in Sydney with a group of people from England. Now, the question is, yes, it was an invasion because there were a lot of people living in a particular way in this country. But think about it. If that had not happened, what would happen to modern Australia? It would not be here. It would be still the same as it was for 40, 60,000 years. We have to learn from that because there's a great respect for Mother Earth, from the indigenous populations. But really, at one stage or another, Australia as a nation, as a continent, only had about 1 million people at its greatest indigenous population. That's what I've read in books. I could be wrong, but no more than 1 million people in a continent as big as and bigger than Europe. So think about that. So indigenous populations need to understand, and people from all over the world need to understand, that we need to fuse these cultural differences in order to achieve the best for Australia. Australia, one family for the future. Now, I'm going to celebrate on Australia Day by asking Angela and Dora to play a couple of songs from the region of Basilicata. Well, in this particular segment, I had to talk about Angela and Dora. They've been such good friends, and I think the interview said it all. The introduction to them, because segment 3 is really special. Stay tuned.